We are back with another super special guest. Today's guest has been on one time before. He's only our second reoccurring guest. To date, he is a professional fighter, most experience in kickboxing and boxing, also has MMA experience. He just recently won the first ever Art of War Kickboxing Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, Zak Noble Kelly. First ever Art of War kickboxing champion. Thanks for being with me. Second time on now.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get into your fight a little bit, but I have some things to catch up on. You've been busy since the last time we spoke. I want to talk about the trip to Scotland with Jake.
hmm
We talked to him since then, but I wanted to get your kind of perspective. How was that for you? Just first of all, the experience, the country, and everything like that.
Uh, it was awesome in so many different ways. It was a lot of new experiences. I've never been on a plane before. I went skydiving once. Other than that, I've never been on a plane. So I technically have never landed on a plane. But that was my first time on a commercial flight, and I flew over to Scotland. But man, it was awesome. It was just a really cool experience. It was beautiful over there. The people were very nice. It was extremely clean. The food was great. It was a little expensive, but yeah, it was
Hmm.
great. And then as far as the competition went, I mean, it was just great seeing fighters at that high of a level from all these different countries. It's very similar to going to like the national tournaments in the United States, except instead of just all being Americans, it was all these different countries. So that was really cool. And just seeing my brother compete is always it's always the best, man. It's always the most fun I ever have watching my brother or some of my real close friends. Watching them compete is sometimes even more fun than when I compete.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it almost, I was watching the vlogs, it almost felt like the Olympics a little bit, like the Team
Yeah.
USA gear. How many Team USA, like how many people was it? Do you remember?
Oh man, I forget. If I had to guess, it was somewhere around 20 guys, like 20 fighters, I believe.
Oh, okay,
It
that's
was,
more
it
than
was
I was
something
thinking.
like that, give or take.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And then we're jump around time wise a little bit, but then he has his trip to Austria. I know
Mm.
you weren't able to make that.
Yeah, yeah.
He didn't have his cheat code out there for
Nah,
him. But what was that like? You being home? Were you like texting him like combos? Like, were you nervous wreck, or how were you feeling from back here?
yeah, yeah. I was excited for him because it's kind of like anything. You're not always gonna have like he calls me the cheat code. I'm flattered by that, but you're not always going to have a backup. Sometimes you got to just go with your gut and rely on yourself. But he would send me his brackets and send me his opponents, and I'd be at work or at home because of time difference. I forget off the top of my head what the time difference was, but yeah, I was at home like watching
Mhm.
watching his opponents fight, and the commentary half the time was in a different language, and I'm just trying to decipher his opponents and make notes and send him what I think he should do. And I think he did a good bit of that. I believe when he fought, it was I want to say 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning
Mm.
here, and I think I set an alarm so I'd wake up like a half hour prior, and I
Mhm.
probably woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was a nervous wreck. I don't really get so nervous when I compete,
Mm.
but what my brother does, I'm always extremely confident. But what I get nervous about isn't necessarily like him getting hurt or him
Mm.
not being able to do what I know he can do,
Mm.
which might sound weird. What I get nervous about is if it doesn't go his way, how is he going to react? Because Jake pours his heart and soul into what he does. I mean, every fighter will tell you they train harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
Um, but my brother really does train extremely hard. Sometimes I think he trains too hard, and I got to try to rope him in, but I can't always do that. And he pours his heart and soul into it, and I think you know having an older brother that's been doing it as long as I have, I think, sometimes I might put a little unnecessary pressure where he goes even harder. And,
Mm.
I'm proud of him no matter what. He could stop right now and I'd be proud of everything he done. I mean, everything
Mm.
he's done and it'd be a weight off my shoulders. But no, I love seeing him compete and I wish I could have been there, but he did great. I'm proud of him no matter what. You know, he's fighting not just the best fighters, you know, in the area. He's fighting the best fighters in the world. You know, he's flying overseas. You know, that's something I never got the chance to do. And I'm extremely proud and excited every time he gets these type of opportunities.
Yeah, yeah, 1000%. And then with these like international things, why does it seem like you know you got to get a stoppage or a knockout? Like some of the judging is kind of iffy. Why do you think that is?
You know, kickboxing in general, sometimes it's very fast paced and it goes by so quick when you're in there. And sometimes it's just hard to score. You know, are they scoring different judges, different promotions? They all score differently. Sometimes they favor punches more than kicks. Sometimes where you punch or where you kick might be worth more. If I land a good combination on you, but did that score more than how you countered? You know,
Hmm.
there's just a lot of different judging criterias. And I also just think the majority of the world hates Americans. So, you
Yeah.
know, when we went to Scotland, you know, there was a lot of other teams. You could tell they were kind of mocking us, and they would yell
Hmm.
USA, USA, but they were kind of doing it in like a mocking way. And
Right.
us being Americans, we just did it back, and we did it loud, more proud, you know,
Mhm.
which sometimes got a good laugh, and then sometimes we get a lot of eye rolls. But yeah, man, just our job is to go out there and either make the judge's job easy by completely dominating our opponent, or even better, winning by knockout. You know, so
Yeah.
it's easier said than done.
Right. Yeah, it's always tricky no matter what, boxing, kickboxing, MMA. But then before your last fight this past weekend, you had that match in August. You kind of have that little like somewhat viral clip again. I feel like you're good at doing that where you have he looks like somewhat out on his feet. You give him one more. Just take us through that.
When I was getting ready for this fight, my brother and I were talking about it, and I don't remember even how it came up. We were just talking about it, and he said, "Man, that was like the fastest two right punches I've ever seen somebody throw." Is what my brother said to me. And
Hmm.
he said, "Dude, you have no idea. In the moment when it happened, it felt like the slowest slow motion you would even believe. Like I knew I had him hurt." Um,
Yeah.
in boxing, just like any combat sport, if
Hmm.
somebody's hurt, a lot of times they're going to try to clinch and recover. And
Mm.
I had him hurt, and then he clinched, and then the referee separated us, and I knew I need to stay on him, or he's just going to keep tying me up. And so I hit him with a good shot, and it looked like in slow motion he was about to go down, and like I was like having a conversation with myself. I was like, "This is your chance," and I just felt like it was the slowest punch. I felt like it took forever. And then when I saw the video, think, think, and he went down. But yeah, I remember telling my brother, I said, "Dude, it literally felt like a movie. It felt so slow."
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt good, man. The adrenaline rush and that like high that you get from competing, let alone winning,
Hmm.
there's nothing like it. That's why I keep coming back for more. And then winning by knockout. You know, I've won by decision, I've won by submission in MMA, and
Hmm.
won by knockout a few times. And man, there's no better feeling than winning by knockout. It's absolutely insane, the rush of adrenaline, and for a couple minutes you feel like a superhero, and then you just back to reality, you know. But
Yeah.
it, it,
Yeah.
it was it was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah. No, that makes sense that it felt like slow motion for you because usually, you don't throw same side two times in a row. So you're like,
Yeah.
you probably weren't sure, how to follow up there. But yeah, that was wild. This past November, traveled down to Philly of those BKFC tryouts. What was that experience like for you?
Ah man, it was really cool. You know, I expected there to be a big crowd. There was like triple the amount of people there that I thought. There was like just under 200 people.
Hmm.
Um, and they said they were only going to select 12 fighters to potentially compete in the BKFC, and I was one of the 12 selected. Yeah, there was a lot of people there that, no offense to them, they just didn't have any business there. You know, there were some very interesting characters that have never fought before, and they
Hmm.
were literally. It was more of like you get there, they did like a small photo shoot, and
Hmm.
then after that, it put everybody through like they called it a warm up, but it was really like a workout. They had us basically run. I would guesstimate maybe a mile inside. Every now and again, they'd get you to stop and do like different calisthenic exercises like squats or push ups or burpees. I think they were just trying to gauge who's in shape. And then they had us do a lot of shadow boxing, and they had a lot of judges walking around, seeing how you looked, and who had decent technique, who actually looked like they might know what they're doing.
Mm.
And then they had us hit punching bags, and they had some different coaches walking around with focus mitts. You could hit those, and then everybody had a T-shirt with a number on the sleeve, and they wrote the numbers down that they thought were could be legitimate fighters. And then they had us do some sparring rounds, and then selected 12 fighters. They said that they're going to be doing, I think, 5 or 6 shows in 2025 in Pennsylvania, and they said they would love to reach out to some of us about potentially competing for them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then just meeting, did you get to meet Eddie up close? I saw the clips. Shout out to your brother for documenting everything, but
yeah,
in those clips of Eddie kind of giving his own speech too.
Eddie Alvarez was there, and Chris Lytle was there.
Yeah.
2 legends in the game. Eddie Alvarez is from Philadelphia. I don't know him personally, but I've seen him quite a few times. I was moderately starstruck though when I saw Chris Lytle. I remember being a kid in high school watching him, in the Ultimate Fighter and in the UFC. But Eddie Alvarez is the man. He was a former world champion, and then they had some other, BKFC prospect fighters that have already competed for the company, not participating in the tryout, but just there to spectate. So it was cool seeing some of them, and then obviously the promoter. Just a lot of cool. It was just overall a cool experience. I'm glad I went and took part in it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it would be a fast turnaround, but are you on that first card, the January, that one, or is it just they're keeping you on the books for these next few cards coming up?
I think that they're just keeping tabs with me. They to be honest with you, they did reach out maybe 3-4 weeks ago about possibly competing in that January card,
Right.
But they saw that I had a fight already scheduled for my kickboxing fight.
Yeah.
And I think legally I can't be contracted to fight 2 fights. Fights at one time, have 2 contracts, at least not in the same state, or at least not in Pennsylvania. But I told them I got to focus on the task at hand, and we'll get through that. But I'm pretty sure that January card is already pretty full. And like I said, I'm not too worried about it. If they're going to be doing a bunch of shows throughout the year, I'm a pretty active fighter. In the last year and a half, I've had 7 fights. So I don't see myself sitting on a shelf for too long. I'll probably have a fight scheduled in the next 2 weeks. I'm a pretty active guy.
Weekend. Just in the preparation for it, was that your first kickboxing match in a cage?
No, I had a kickboxing fight in a cage as an amateur, 2000, maybe 12, something like that. It was in a long time, over a decade. So
I figured that.
But I fought in a cage a ton of times. I've trained in a cage a ton of times. It's definitely different, but not that I will say was the biggest cage that I've ever been in. And honestly, I was very excited about that. It's the same size as the UFC pay-per-view cage. I've never competed in a cage that large. I've cornered in those cages, but it was a really cool experience. I liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. So nothing new for you really as far as that goes. And then I wasn't sure if they were going to go with the small gloves or the big gloves. So that was new for me, just anticipating that. But then the fight itself, how do you feel when you were in there? It went all 3 rounds. You got the decision, first round, second round. Kind of take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, going into the fight, I watched a good bit of tape of my opponent. And, when I talked to my cornerman, and obviously I always I keep my wife in the loop too, because she gets a little bit of a nervous wreck forever. I'm usually pretty good at gauging how the fight's going to go. And I said the first round's going to be probably the toughest round. My opponent, throughout his amateur and professional career, he has quite a few first round knockout wins with either head kicks or punches. So I know that he hits hard. I know that he's strong. He's durable. I also know he's going to be a little bit heavier than me. I had some height and reach on him, but he's the heavier guy. I went up a weight class for this fight. And I said the first round's going to be very competitive. The second round, I'm going to have to turn it up a little bit. And then the third round, I think that it will be a lot of volume being thrown by me, and I anticipated sitting him down. I would say the fight went very close to how I thought. What caught me a little bit off guard was he, even though I knew he was strong, and I didn't expect him to be as kick heavy as what he was, and I didn't expect. I was told by someone who coached against him a couple times that he had very strong kicks, but I have a lot of kickboxing experience, so I don't want to say I underestimated his kicks, but I just didn't anticipate them to be as strong as what they were. I remember that first leg kick he landed. I kind of broke my own rule. I have a rule when I'm coaching fighters. If you've ever heard the term like monkey see, monkey do, right? A lot of times I see fighters, they get hit with a big right hand, and then they spend the rest of the round, whether it's sparring or in a fight, trying to get that back and land that big right hand. Well, he hit with this freaking inside leg kick, man, and that was the hardest kick I've been hit with in a very long time. And the crowd like roared at it, and it fired. And I was like, I'm gonna get him back with the same kick. And I did the same kick, and my shin smacked his shin right up, and I could just feel my leg throbbing. And that took a little bit of wind out of my sails. And I'm sure you've seen the picture, and a lot of people saw my shin after the fight. My leg was like super swollen. That was probably the first or second kick I threw of the fight, or at least the first right low kick that I threw. So that kind of slowed me down a little bit in the first round. And then once the adrenaline picked up, and that fight or flight mentality kicks in, you don't feel the pain quite as much. But I knew I had to be a little bit more cautious. And then so the second round, I just tried to up the volume a little bit more. But I knew I had to stay on my bike, using a little bit more footwork than I normally would do, because this guy was very strong. He's very, and not just strong, he's very durable. And then in the third round, going into the third round, I heard something that, I don't think a lot of fighters like to hear, but I'm glad I got to experience it. Was in between rounds, my brother said, "Listen, man, I have you up 2 rounds, but it's close. You have to win this round." And I'm getting goosebumps right now. I was like, this is what I'm getting chills right now, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what I'm talking about. I said, this is what I needed. I needed a fight where I could push the pace, and I bit down on my mouthpiece. And even the commentators, I've only watched the fight once, entirety since then, but even the commentators are like, man, Zach looks pissed off. And I wasn't pissed off. I was pretty calm, but I was amped. I was excited. I was like, this is the one. This is going to be the round that the fans are cheering and yelling. I mean, they could have been cheering the whole fight. I feel like the fight was pretty good, but that first round, I feel like we were going at it, and then I felt like he started to slow down. And once he started to slow down and he started to get a little more comfortable with being up against the cage, I knew that I had him, and I hit him with shots. And I talked to him after the fight. I hit him with the same exact combinations and punches that I hit my last few opponents with, and they went down and did not get up. I hit. Not only did he keep pushing, he didn't go down at all, and a lot of respect to him for that. I was told that he is a very durable and strong fighter, and I think that was an understatement. I have tons of respect for him, and we chopped it up a good bit after the fight in the back, and yeah, man, shout out to Sean Brooks. He's very tough, and it was awesome. That was one of my favorite fights for sure.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was my first time seeing you in person, so that was incredible.
Oh,
Yeah, that was awesome to see. Yeah, I feel like that third round now, I had the adrenaline going too, of course, and then I'm biased, but like I feel like that third round like really took over. I think one judge gave it to him. Do you feel like it was 2-1, or do you feel like you kind of like the actual decision?
Kind of like what we were saying earlier about those fights overseas.
Yeah.
Judging is very difficult. I'm not too hard on the judges. If they would have gave it to him, obviously I'd been upset because I felt like I won.
Yeah.
I thought I won every round. And I'm very honest. I've won fights as an amateur that I thought I lost, and I told my opponent, "Hey, I thought this was your fight," and I've done the same when it was the other way around. I won the fight, and I was confident that I won the fight. And when they said split decision, I just said, "Hey, I mean, what can I do? If they give it to him and I throw a temper tantrum in the cage, he still has the belt, and if I win and he gets upset, I still have it. So, you
Right.
know, it maybe it's just me having a lot of experience, or me just getting old, and I mean, I don't put energy into something that I can't control. You know, that's
Right.
three people's opinion that I have no idea who they are and where they're sitting, and you know whose back was to who when the strikes were flying. It's
Yeah.
very hard to tell what landed clean and what didn't. You know, I
Mm.
was told in the fight that I got hit with a flush head kick, and people are like, I don't know how you were still standing, and I'm
Mm.
like, what are you talking about? And then I watched the fight, and I'm pretty sure I did get hit with a pretty. I don't think it was as flush as what some people said, but
Mm.
I definitely got hit with some hard shots. But it's very hard to judge those fights. You know, I'm very disappointed that I didn't knock him out, or at least put him down at all. I'm extremely disappointed in that. But at the same time, you know, it doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile. A win is a win at the end of the day, and I'm
Yeah.
happy that I got the W.
Yeah, yeah, 1,000%. Now, the belt itself looked massive. I didn't get to hold it or anything, but how does that belt compare to your other belts,
Oh,
just
it's huge.
physically, aesthetically?
They're behind me. It's
Yeah.
on a frame for it. Yeah, it's pretty big. I actually didn't think it was gonna fit in the case. I had to push it down a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit taller. It's the same length as my other belts, but it's definitely the tallest one, and it's definitely the coolest looking one. That's for sure. That
Yeah.
was that. To be honest with you, that was the selling point for me. Was the title fight. You know, I totally focused on boxing. And when the promoter Mike Vickings contacted me and said he got licensed to start doing these like hybrid shows, kind of similar to One Championship, where they're going to do boxing. I mean, I'm sorry, kickboxing and MMA on the same cards. And he asked me if I'd like to be the first one. And
Mhm.
at first, I was a little hesitant. I said, you know, I still train a little kickboxing to help my brother and some of my other friends, but my main focus is boxing, and that's what I'm really passionate about. And he's like, well, I got these new belts, and I was going to make it a title fight. And I said, you know, I have other belts. You know, I'm pretty content with my kickboxing career. And then he sent me a picture of it, and I was like, hey, just let me know when you find an opponent. I'd like to fight. It's so cool. There's like a samurai mask in the middle of it. It's pretty badass. So, you know, that was part of it for that third round. Was like, man, I want that freaking belt. I'm not in here, you know, getting all banged up for nothing. So, yeah,
Yeah.
a little extra push, that's for sure.
Yeah. I know Jake probably loves the belt. I know he loves the samurai stuff.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah,
sure they're hounding him to get in there.
yeah. I wanted Jake on the same card, but you know, it just timing wise didn't quite work out. But hopefully next year that'd be great to see. You know, Jake have one of these belts and add it to his collection. He's got a whole bunch of cool ones already.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then I think they're turning around. I saw something like their next card will be March, I believe. Um,
Yeah, I
but
think so.
yeah, but I'm glad you brought up like them, you know, hitting you up and like asking if you want to be the first one because I know you have like a pretty vast like history with Art of War, going back to your mixed martial arts days. So what does that mean to you? Kind of, sort of full circle in a way. Obviously, you're not finished, but to get that title for that promotion
Mhm.
specifically.
No, it means a lot, and I said that to Mike. You know, the promoter Mike Bickings. It means a ton to me. You know, I was the first ever Art of War one, the very first event. I think this one was number 39, I believe.
39. Yep.
I was Art of War one. I was the main event. It was in my hometown. I fought a guy, Josh Stanley, and you know we put on a barn burner of a fight, and you know it was at the Lanco Field House in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Um, yeah, I mean that's something that you know, it might not mean a lot to the masses of people, but that's something that means a lot to me. You know, that's something that no one can ever take from me. I was the first ever Art of War. I mean, I feel like Art of War is really blowing up in the regional scene. Every time I go, there seems to be more people and more people talking about Art of War cage fighting. And to say like, yeah, I know, I was at the first one. And not only was I there, I headlined it. That's something cool. And the fact that he thought of me as to be the first professional kickboxing fight, that means a lot, and it's really cool. And yeah, I'm honored to have that belt hanging in my gym.
Yeah, yeah, 1,000%. Just before I get you out of here, I'd like to talk about some of the current UFC stuff. What's your opinion on like John Jones? You think he should fight, Aspinall? You think you don't care if he fights Poatan? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, Yeah, John Jones. I think it's hard to argue that he's not the greatest of all time. I don't know how he feels physically. If he still feels great, like he looked great against Stipe, but Stipe obviously has been out of the game for a long time. But if John Jones feels as great as he looked in that fight, I would love to see him fight Tom Aspinall. I think that John Jones, he's not the strongest or the fastest or the most powerful, but he's the most strategic. And I feel like he has the highest fight IQ of any mixed martial artist, besides maybe neck and neck with George St. Pierre, right? I feel like they're like the two guys that I consider the GOATs of MMA. John Jones may be slightly higher just because of the margin for error in his weight division and the level of competition he's faced. George St. Pierre faced like a little bit different of an era where the guys maybe weren't as well rounded. But both guys, I think, are the number 1A and 1B of greatest of all time, in my opinion. But yeah, I'd like to see John Jones fight Tom Aspinall for sure. And as far as Alex Pereira goes, he's probably my favorite like current UFC fighter to watch. And I wanted to see him versus John Jones until I saw John Jones versus Stipe. I that John Jones still has the gas in the tank, and it'd be cool to see Alex Pereira be the first ever 3 division champion. But I don't think John Jones. John Jones is just too smart. He'll take you where you're not meant to be, and I don't think that as good as Alex Pereira is, I don't think that he has the experience in MMA to beat a guy like John Jones. I'd like to see him just become like this long reigning 205-pound highlight reel champion. I'd love to see him fight Jamal Hill 10 more times, because nothing was better than watching him knock him out. So I'd like to see that. But yeah, John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, I think that's the fight to make, and hopefully we see it next year, man. That'd be cool. I know I'd tune in.
Yeah. So no knock to Jones if he never fights Aspinall.
No, he's already done everything. I didn't think that he would. I couldn't believe that. He's kind of teasing that he'll do it.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't want him to, because not just because like I wouldn't want to see him lose, but he's already done everything. I'm a total Star Wars nerd, and in Star Wars Episode 1, A Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon Jinn said, "There's always a bigger fish." So if he beats Tom Aspinall, there's going to be another guy, and then there's going to be another guy, and eventually he's going to lose, and then people are going to say, "See, I told you he wasn't that good." And why not let the guy retire when he's on top of the world? He just beat one of the arguably greatest heavyweights of all time, Stipe, but Father Time is undefeated, and as long as John Jones still feels good, then I'd love to see him compete. But if he decides to not fight Aspinall and just never fight again, I wouldn't have any hard feelings toward that at all. I'd actually really respect that. But as me being a complete degenerate, greedy fan, I want to see him fight Tom Aspinall, and then I want to see him fight Francis Ngannou. But I don't think the Francis fight will happen because of the relationship he has with Dana White. But man, if they can make those 2 fights happen, then he sails off. Not only will he probably be the highest paid UFC fighter of all time, but then how do you argue that he's not the greatest?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think he can beat Poatan and Aspinall. I feel like he might take the Poatan fight first, and everybody's gonna talk crap, and I don't think he's gonna give us Aspinall right away. I think he can take Poatan. I think he beats Poatan pretty easily. Aspinall, I'm not sure, but I think he can beat both of them anyway. So, but yeah, like you said, there's always gonna be somebody, complaining either way.
There's always another fight, and there's always people talking crap online. You're never gonna do that.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously you just fought, but anything else coming up? Anything with Jake, or I know Christian had a fight. I think it was Summer. Anything coming up with anybody in your squad there?
Letitia Mole. Letitia Mole is another fighter that trains out of Gracie 717 that I help out a little bit, here and there, not as much as I would like to, but I have a very busy schedule. But yeah, she has a fight. I believe she announced it. It is, I want to say, February 1st for the UFC in Philadelphia. So I'll be there helping her in her corner. So I believe she's up next. Jake, I'm not too sure. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say probably sometime in the first quarter of the year, but I don't know. He has a couple different options that he could choose from, and Jake's definitely very strategic and likes to pick one and then train for a long time for it, and just be not overtrained, but like almost over prepared. Like he likes to put a lot of work, a lot of effort into to one thing. I'm a little bit more of the wild child. I'll probably fight 3 or 4 more times before my brother fights, or at least between his next 2 fights. But I hope Jake gets back in there soon, man. He's my favorite fighter to watch, man. I love watching my brother fight. I know how good he is, and I can't wait for everybody else to see how good he is as well. And Christian, I'm not too sure when Christian's next fight is, but he's training like a man, kicking everybody's butt in the gym, kick my butt, anytime I train with him. So I can't wait to see Christian fight again. I can't wait to see everybody, all our guys fight again. Jake and Letitia, they're all looking great.
Yeah, shout out Letitia. Her and I went to high school together, so I'm very familiar with her. We're gonna have her on. Been trying to plan it out, you know how it goes, but yeah. So she's awesome. Shout out all of them. But yeah, and then of course, if you just want to plug your socials, where can everybody find you?
I'm predominantly on Instagram. I have Facebook, but I'm not on it that as much. Instagram, Zak Noble, ZakNoble. I post decent amount of fight content, especially when I'm getting close to a fight. I try to flood my stories as much as I can with pictures and videos of my dogs, because they're the best dogs around. Hopefully stay tuned. Hopefully in the next couple, maybe 2-3 weeks, hopefully I have some cool fight news. I'm definitely in talks with a few different options, and we'll see which one works best schedule wise. But I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Like always, thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to look forward to everything you have going on in the future.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.